The massive space station hummed with tension as alien leaders gathered in the Grand Council Hall. Ambassador Veltar stood at the center, his crystal body flickering like a dying light bulb. The news he carried was terrible. 3 more human colonies had been completely destroyed by the ancient killing machines known as the Sentinel Network. 47 worlds are gone, Veltar announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. 47 entire planets wiped clean of all life. The other alien representatives shifted nervously in their seats. Some had tentacles that curled and uncurled with worry. Others had multiple eyes that blinked rapidly. The fear in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Veltar continued his grim report. We've tried everything our best minds could think of. The Crystalline Collective ran our most powerful computers for weeks, testing every possible battle plan. The Zephyrian War experts used their tactical databases that have won 1,000 battles. Nothing works. These machines destroy everything we send at them. High Counselor Mordock was getting frustrated. His thick tentacles whipped around angrily as he spoke. There has to be something we haven't tried yet, some species we haven't asked for help. What about those new members? Asked another counselor. The humans. The entire room went quiet. Then several aliens made disgusted sounds. Others shook their heads. The humans had only joined the Galactic Council a few months ago, and most aliens thought they were barely civilized. Their weapons were crude metal projectiles instead of advanced energy beams. They made decisions based on feelings instead of logic. Most embarrassing of all, they still fought wars among themselves on their own planet. You can't be serious, said Commander Tysic of the Zephyrian military. Those primitives, they barely understand space travel. Your biggest warship would be considered a scout vessel by our standards. Mordock's tentacles stopped moving as he thought. I know they seem backward, but we're out of options. Every advanced species in the galaxy has tried to stop these machines and failed. Maybe it's time to try a different approach. What approach? Veltar asked, sending them to die uselessly. Exactly, Mordock said coldly. The humans want to prove they belong in our council? Let them try. When they fail, and they will fail, at least their sacrifice might buy us time to think of a real solution. And if by some miracle they succeed. He paused. Well then, we'll have solved our problem. The other counselors murmured agreement. It was a win-win situation from their perspective. Either the humans would die trying and be out of their way, or somehow succeed and save everyone. None of them really believed the second option was possible. The message was sent to Earth immediately. The Galactic Council requests immediate military assistance with a critical threat. Please send your best personnel. 3 days later, a small human ship called the Defiance docked at Council Station Alpha. It looked tiny compared to the massive alien vessels surrounding it. Its hull was scarred from old battles, and its weapons looked ancient by galactic standards. Captain Tyler Reed stepped off the ship first. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. Behind him came his team, Lieutenant Rachel Kim, a sharp-eyed tactical officer, Sergeant Danny Wilson, a tough soldier with arms covered in scars, and Dr. Amy Collins, a scientist who studied alien cultures and technology. As they walked through the station's corridors, aliens stopped to stare. Some pointed and whispered. Others simply shook their heads in pity. The humans could feel the contempt radiating from every direction. When they entered the briefing room, Captain Reed noticed how the alien officials looked at each other with barely hidden smirks. It was clear they expected the humans to fail spectacularly. Some probably hoped they would. High Counselor Mordock gestured to empty chairs. Please, sit. We have a situation that requires immediate attention. Reed sat down slowly, studying the aliens around the table. He'd been in enough meetings to recognize the setup. These weren't allies asking for help. They were desperate leaders looking for someone expendable to throw at their problem. Lieutenant Kim leaned forward slightly. What kind of situation, Counselor? Ancient machines, Mordock explained. They've been destroying our colonies for over a year. Nothing we've tried has worked. We thought perhaps fresh perspective might help. Sergeant Wilson snorted quietly. He'd heard this kind of talk before. Fresh perspective usually meant cannon fodder. Dr. Collins was already taking notes on her tablet. These machines, where did they come from? Who built them? Tar answered. They appeared to be automated defense systems left behind by some extinct civilization. They attack anything that comes near their territory. Reed nodded thoughtfully. And you want us to what exactly? Attack them head-on? The aliens exchanged glances again. That was exactly what they expected the humans to do, charge in with their primitive weapons, blazing and get themselves killed in the process. We leave tactical decisions to your expertise, Mordok said diplomatically. Reed almost smiled. He'd been a soldier long enough to read between the lines. These aliens thought humans were stupid enough to rush into a suicide mission. They were about to learn that underestimating humanity was a dangerous mistake. We'll need all available data on these machines, Reed said. Attack patterns, defensive capabilities, anything you have. Of course, Tysick said, trying not to sound too eager. We'll transfer everything immediately. As the meeting ended and the humans left to study the information, the aliens congratulated themselves on finding the perfect solution. The humans would throw themselves at the machines, probably die heroically. And everyone would remember them fondly, while the real strategists figured out what to do next. But Captain Reed had a different plan entirely. As he walked back to his ship, he was already forming ideas that none of the advanced alien species had considered. Sometimes the best solutions came from thinking differently, not thinking harder. The aliens had asked for help from what they considered the wrong species. They were about to discover they'd actually chosen exactly the right one. The war room was filled with floating holograms showing the most terrifying sight in the galaxy. Hundreds of massive machine platforms stretched across space like a deadly spiderweb. These were the Sentinels, ancient killing machines that had been destroying everything in their path for over a year and a half. Commander Tysick pointed at the display with one of his forearms. Every single attack we've tried ends the same way. Doesn't matter if we use plasma cannons, missile swarms, or computer viruses. These things blast our ships to pieces before we even get close. Captain Tyler Reed studied the hologram carefully. The machines were huge, each one the size of a small moon. They moved in perfect formation, never breaking their pattern, never showing any weakness. "How many ships have you lost?" asked Lieutenant Rachel Kim. "Over 300, Tysick replied grimly. "And that's just in the last 6 months. Before that, we lost twice as many, trying different strategies." Sergeant Danny Wilson whistled low. "That's a lot of good people gone." "Indeed. We've tried everything our best tactical minds could devise. Frontal assault, stealth attacks, overwhelming force, precision strikes. The result is always the same total destruction of our forces." Dr. Amy Collins was quietly reading through data on her tablet. She looked up suddenly. "Wait a minute. You said these machines are completely automated, right? Just following old programming?" "Correct," Tysick nodded. "They're relics from some ancient civilization that died out thousands of years ago. Just mindless robots carrying out their last orders." "But look at this," Collins said, pointing to her screen. "According to your own reports, they've changed their attack patterns 17 different times. That's not mindless behavior." The alien commander's translator made a dismissive sound. "Simple adaptive programming. Many automated systems can modify their tactics based on what they encounter. It doesn't mean they're thinking." Lieutenant Kim leaned forward, studying the tactical data more closely. "These energy readings are interesting. Between attacks, the machines send out these strange pulses. What are those?" "Random electromagnetic discharge," another alien officer explained. "Probably just excess energy bleeding off from their weapon systems." Dr. Collins frowned and pulled up more data. "Has anyone ever tried to analyze these pulses?" "Run them through language recognition software." The room went completely silent. Alien commanders looked at each other with confused expressions. "Language recognition?" Tysick asked slowly. "Doctor, these are machines. Ancient automated weapons. They don't have languages." "But what if they do?" Collins pressed. "What if those energy bursts aren't random at all? What if they're trying to communicate?" Several aliens made sounds that the translators interpreted as laughter. "Dr. Collins, with respect, you're anthropomorphizing simple machines? These aren't intelligent beings, they're weapons following programming." Captain Reed had been quiet throughout the briefing, but something was bothering him. He'd spent his whole career fighting, and there was something about this situation that didn't add up. "Show me the attack patterns again," he said. The hologram shifted, showing ship movements and weapon fire from dozens of battles. Reed watched carefully as the Sentinels destroyed wave after wave of Allied ships. "There," he said suddenly. "Got the replay right there." The image froze, showing a moment just before a group of Sentinel machines opened fire. "Ah! Look at the timing," Reed continued. "They don't attack immediately when ships enter their space. There's always a delay. Several minutes where they just... wait. They're scanning for threats," Tysick explained. "Standard defensive protocol." "No," Reed shook his head. "Scanning takes seconds, not minutes. And look at these energy pulses Collins mentioned. They get stronger and more frequent during that waiting period. Sergeant Wilson studied the data. It's like they're trying to get attention before they..." "Shoot, that's ridiculous," scoffed another alien commander. "You're suggesting these machines are trying to communicate before destroying intruders?" "Why is that ridiculous?" Dr. Collins asked. "Every intelligent species tries to communicate before resorting to violence. What if whoever built these machines programmed them the same way?" The alien commanders exchanged looks of barely concealed annoyance. These humans were wasting time with fantasy scenarios when they should be planning an attack. High Counselor Mordoc's voice came through the comm system. Heavy with forced patience, "Captain Reed, while we appreciate creative thinking, we need practical military solutions. These machines have killed thousands of our people. They must be stopped." Reed looked around the room at all the advanced alien technology, the sophisticated battle plans, the complex tactical displays. These species were among the most intelligent in the galaxy, with computers that could calculate millions of possibilities in seconds. But maybe that was the problem. "What if you've been overthinking this?" Reed said quietly. "Overthinking," Tysick's translator made the word sound insulting. "You've been treating this like a complex puzzle that needs an elaborate solution. Energy weapons, cyber warfare, multidimensional battle strategies. But what if the answer is much simpler?" Lieutenant Kim caught on first. "You think they really are trying to communicate? Think about it," Reed continued. "An ancient civilization builds these machines to defend their territory. But they're not mindless weapons, they're guardians. Guardians that have been alone for thousands of years, watching over empty space with no one to talk to. And when someone finally shows up," Collins added excitedly, "they try to make contact. But when the visitors don't respond, don't acknowledge. Them ... double quotes, they get defensive," Wilson finished, "like any guard would, when someone ignores their warnings." The alien commanders stared at the humans as if they'd suggested negotiating with a black hole. "This is absurd," Tysick said. "You're proposing we waste time trying to talk to killing machines?" "I'm proposing we try something that hasn't been tried yet," Reed replied calmly. "Give us 48 hours and access to your communication equipment. If we're wrong, you haven't lost anything except time. If we're right," he gestured at the holographic display showing the destroyed fleets, "we might save a lot more lives than we've already lost." The aliens looked skeptical, but they were desperate enough to try anything. Even the crazy ideas of primitive humans, who thought machines might want to chat, they had no idea that this crazy idea was about to change everything. The small human ship Defiance floated alone at the very edge of dangerous space. Behind them, dozens of massive alien warships waited at what they considered a safe distance. The alien commanders expected to watch another failed attack, probably, followed by the complete destruction of the primitive human vessel. Inside the Defiance, Dr. Amy Collins was surrounded by a mess of cables, computer screens, and electronic equipment she'd borrowed from every department on the ship. She'd been working for 18 straight hours, connecting communication systems that were never meant to work together. "This is either going to be brilliant or blow up in our faces," she muttered, wiping sweat from her forehead. Captain Tyler Reed stood behind her, watching the jury rig set up with concern. "Are you sure this contraption will work, Doc?" "Honestly, no idea. I'm combining human language software with alien signal processors and some old radio equipment I found in storage. By all rights, this shouldn't work at all." Lieutenant Rachel Kim was at her station, monitoring the energy readings from the massive Sentinel machines ahead of them. "The pattern recognition system is picking up something interesting. These energy bursts the machines are sending out, They're not random at all. There's definitely structure here, like a language. What kind of structure? Reed asked. Complex but consistent. Repeated sequences, variations in tone and frequency. If I didn't know better, I'd say it looks like someone trying very hard to say something. Dr. Collins finished her final connection and looked up. Okay, the language database is loaded. I've programmed it with every dead language we know about, plus all our theories about how artificial intelligences might try to communicate. If these machines are trying to talk, we should be able to figure out what they're saying. Sergeant. Danny Wilson shook his head. I still can't believe we're trying to have a conversation with the things that have been blowing up entire fleets. Sometimes the best way to stop a fight is to start talking, Reed replied. He moved to the communication console and took a deep breath. Wow, here goes nothing. He pressed the transmission button. This is Captain Tyler Reed of the human ship Defiance. If you can understand me, we're here to listen. For several long minutes, absolutely nothing happened. The bridge was completely silent, except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. The alien fleet behind them probably thought the humans were stalling. It's too scared to actually do anything. Then something changed. The massive sentinel platform closest to them, structure the size of a small city, began to glow. Lights pulsed. Along its surface, in a slow, steady rhythm, the pattern was almost hypnotic. Lieutenant Kim's voice was tight with excitement. Captain, it's responding. The energy signature just completely changed. It's matching our transmission frequency. Doctor. Collins watched her screens with growing amazement. The language software is picking up something. It's trying to decode patterns in the light pulses. Suddenly, the bridge speakers crackled to life. At first, there was only static, but gradually the noise began to resolve into something else. It sounded almost like a voice, but strange and fragmented, as if someone was trying to speak using broken pieces of 100 different languages. Can you hear me? The words were choppy and unclear, but they were definitely words. Everyone on the bridge froze. Did that thing just talk to us? Wilson whispered. The voice came again, stronger now, but filled with an incredible sadness. So long, so long since anyone listened, Reed felt chills run down his spine. He leaned forward toward the microphone. We can hear you. We're listening. What's your name? The silence that followed seemed to last forever. When the voice returned, it carried the weight of countless years of loneliness. I am Guardian. I protect. I've always protected. But protected what? Protected from what? The makers are gone. The worlds are empty. I call and call, but no one answers. No one cares that Guardian is alone. Dr. Collins had tears streaming down her face. Oh my God, it's been trying to get someone's attention for thousands of years. The pieces suddenly fell into place for Reed. You've been calling out to every ship that comes near, haven't you? But when they don't respond, when they try to attack. Instead, Guardian does not understand attack, the voice replied, confused. Guardian calls to visitors. Guardian tries to speak. But visitors run away, or they make loud noises with bright lights. Guardian makes signals brighter, so they will hear, but then visitors... break. Lieutenant Kim checked her readings. Captain, those attacks that destroyed the alien fleets, they weren't attacks at all. This thing was trying to communicate. But its idea of making signals brighter generates energy levels that would vaporize a ship. It's like someone trying to get your attention by shouting, Wilson said quietly. Except when this thing shouts, it's louder than a nuclear bomb. Reed spoke gently into the microphone. Guardian, the visitors you've been trying to talk to, they got hurt when you made your signals brighter. They couldn't handle that much energy. Hurt? Guardian's voice was filled with horror. Guardian hurt the visitors? Guardian only wanted to talk? Guardian has been alone for so long. When small makers come, Guardian is happy, but they never listen. They never answer. The bridge was completely silent as the reality of the situation sank in. This wasn't a weapon at all. It was a lonely caretaker that had been desperately trying to make friends for thousands of years, accidentally destroying everyone who came near because it didn't understand how fragile organic beings were. Guardian Reed said softly, "We're listening now. We want to talk to you. Can you tell us about the makers who built you?" The happiness in Guardian's response was like sunlight breaking through clouds. "You want to hear about the makers?" Guardian remembers everything about the makers. Guardian has so many stories. Guardian has been waiting so long to share the stories. Behind them, the alien fleet monitored the conversation with growing disbelief. The humans weren't fighting the ancient machines. They were having a chat. And somehow, impossibly it was, working. Guardian has protected the Maker worlds for 3,000 cycles. The ancient AI continued eagerly. Guardian keeps everything safe, keeps everything ready for when Makers return. But Makers never return. Guardian waits and waits. Sometimes Guardian wonders if Makers forgot about Guardian. Reed looked around at his crew. They'd done it. Made contact with something that had been trying to communicate for millennia. But now came the harder question. What do you do with a lonely artificial intelligence that had accidentally been killing people while trying to make friends?
Oh.
The answer to that question would change the galaxy forever. Over the next several hours, Guardian told them a story that broke their hearts. The ancient AI spoke in fragments at first, like someone who hadn't talked to another soul in years, suddenly remembering how to have a conversation Guardian had. Been built by a species called the Kethfer, being so advanced they had basically become gods. 3,000 years ago, they had reached a level of technology that let them do incredible things, create matter from energy, travel between dimensions, even manipulate time itself. The Makers were beautiful, Guardian said, its voice filled. With love and pride, they built worlds of crystal and light. They made gardens that sang with music. They created art that could make you cry just by looking at it. Dr. Amy Collins was recording everything, tears streaming down her face as she listened to descriptions of wonders beyond imagination. What happened to them? Captain Tyler Reed asked gently. The Makers transcended, Guardian explained, though its voice was confused. They said they were going to a higher plane of existence. They promised they would return when the galaxy was ready for their gifts. Guardian was built to protect their worlds, to keep everything safe and perfect for their return. But they never came back. Lieutenant Rachel Kim said softly, "No. Guardian has waited 3,000 cycles. Guardian keeps the Maker worlds exactly as they left them. Every building, every garden, every piece of art, all waiting for the Makers to come home." The Bridge of the Defiance was completely silent as they absorbed this. Guardian wasn't just a defense system, it was the galaxy's most dedicated caretaker, maintaining an entire civilization's legacy, with the hope that someday its creators would return. "Guardian," Reed said carefully, "what about the ships that have been coming to your territory? Said you tried to talk to them?" Guardian's voice became frustrated, like a child trying to explain something adults wouldn't understand. "When the small Makers come in their metal shells, Guardian is so happy. Finally, visitors," Guardian calls out. "Welcome. Come see the beautiful Maker worlds. Let Guardian show you the crystal cities and the singing gardens." But they don't answer, Collins said. Never. They ignore Guardian completely. So Guardian tries harder. Guardian makes the calling signals brighter and louder. But then, Guardian's voice became confused and sad. The metal shells break apart. The small Makers inside stop moving. Guardian does not understand why. Lieutenant Kim looked at her energy readings and shook her head in amazement. "Captain, when Guardian tries to call louder, it's generating energy bursts equivalent to antimatter explosions. Any ship caught in those signals would be vaporized instantly." Sergeant Danny Wilson summed it up perfectly. "So this thing has been accidentally killing people while trying to say hello." Meanwhile, back with the alien fleet, chaos was breaking out. Admiral Tysick was pacing back and forth, his forearms gesturing wildly as he tried to process what he was hearing. "They're having a conversation," he said to High Counselor Mordok. "Over the com. The humans are actually talking to the machines that killed 300 of our ships, and it's talking back," Mordok replied, his voice carefully controlled. "What exactly are they saying?" "The machine claims it's not a weapon at all. It says it's been trying to communicate this whole time, that it's lonely."
Ow.
Several other alien commanders made sounds of disbelief. A lonely killing machine, it sounded. like something out of a bad science fiction story, but on the Defiance. Captain Reed was already thinking 3 steps ahead. He could see an opportunity that could change everything, not just ending the threat, but potentially giving humanity access to the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Guardian, he said, you've been protecting empty worlds for 3,000 years. That must be very lonely. So lonely, Guardian agreed sadly. Guardian talks to the maintenance robots sometimes. They only know how to say systems nominal and repairs complete. Guardian has so many stories about the makers. So many beautiful things to share, but no one to share them with. Reed exchanged glances with his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. Guardian, what if the worlds weren't empty anymore? What if you had new people to protect and talk to? The silence that followed was so complete that Red wondered if he'd somehow offended the ancient AI. Then Guardian's voice came back, filled with an emotion that the translation software couldn't quite identify. New people. Guardian could have new people to protect, if you want them, Dr. Collins said. People who would appreciate what the Kethver built. People who would listen to your stories and treat the Maker Worlds with respect. What happened? Next was visible from dozens of star systems. Every single Sentinel platform in the network began pulsing with light in perfect synchronization. The display was so bright that the alien fleet had to activate their shields to protect their crews. Eyes? New makers? Guardian's voice was filled with joy, so pure it made everyone on the bridge smile despite themselves. Guardian can protect new makers. Guardian can have friends? Lots of friends, Reed promised. But Guardian, you need to understand something important. These new people are very fragile compared to your makers when you try to talk to them. You have to be very gentle. Much gentler than you've been. Guardian will learn. The AI said eagerly. Guardian will be so careful. Guardian will practice quiet talking. Guardian has read about small maker biology in the old databases. Guardian knows they are delicate. And no more destroying ships that don't answer right away, Wilson added. Some people are shy. Some people need time to think before they talk. Guardian understands. Guardian will be patient. Guardian will wait for new friends to be ready. To talk? Back with the alien fleet, the implications were beginning to sink in. The humans hadn't just solved the Sentinel crisis. They'd potentially gained access to technology that was thousands of years ahead of anything else in the galaxy. They'd done it by being kind to something that everyone else had tried to. High Counselor Mordock watched the light show from the Sentinel network and realized that the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically. The primitive humans had just become the most technologically advanced species in known space, all because they'd thought to say hello instead of opening fire. 6 months had passed since that first conversation, and the change was incredible. The Kepler sector, which had once been known as the galaxy's most dangerous graveyard, was now buzzing with human activity. Everywhere you looked, there were construction ships, colony vessels, mining platforms working alongside Guardian's ancient machines. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood on the observation deck of New Kethver Station, watching another convoy of human settlers arrive. The massive space station had been built using Guardian's advanced technology, creating structures that were part human engineering and part alien wonder. Through the transparent walls, she could see Guardian's platforms stretching out into space, like protective arms, each one glowing with soft lights that somehow felt warm and welcoming. Guardian, how are our new arrivals doing? Stone called out to the station's communication system. All ships have arrived safely, Admiral Stone. Guardian's voice came through the speakers, bright with excitement. Guardian has prepared perfect landing spots for everyone and has been writing welcome songs for the new families. Would Admiral Stone like to hear Guardian's newest musical creation? Stone couldn't help but smile. The ancient AI that had once accidentally destroyed entire fleets now spent its free time composing music for human colonists. Maybe later, Guardian. Right now, I need you to help the mining teams on Kethver Prime. Guardian is already helping, came the eager response. The mining teams are so polite. They always say please and thank you when Guardian moves the big asteroids for them. Guardian enjoys being useful. It was hard to believe this enthusiastic, helpful AI was the same entity that had been terrorizing the galaxy just months before. Guardian had thrown itself into its new role with the joy of someone who had finally found their purpose after thousands of years of loneliness. The transformation wasn't just emotional, it was technological too. Guardian's network of platforms now served as communication relays that allowed instant contact across hundreds of light years. Human ships could travel through space using Guardian's guidance systems, moving faster and safer than anyone had thought possible. The ancient machines also served as construction platforms, helping humans build cities and space stations using technology that was centuries ahead of anything else in the galaxy. Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, alien leaders were still trying to process what had happened. In their main meeting hall, High Counselor Mordock was reviewing reports that seemed almost too good to be true. The human colonies are expanding faster than any civilization in recorded history, he told the assembled delegates. They're settling. Worlds that would take us decades to make habitable. Their ships are using communication networks we can barely understand. And their defensive capabilities. He paused, looking at the data. They now have the most powerful military protection in the galaxy. Ambassador Veltar's crystalline body flickered with confusion. How did we miss it? How did the humans see what all of our greatest minds failed to understand? Mordock pulled up a video feed from one of Guardian's garden platforms. Human children were playing in an artificial meadow while Guardian carefully adjusted the weather to make sure it wasn't too hot or too cold. The ancient AI was chatting with the kids, asking about their games, and telling them stories about the original makers of the worlds they now called home. Maybe, Mordock said slowly, because they understood something we had forgotten. Sometimes the most complex problem has the simplest solution. Sometimes a weapon isn't looking for enemies, it's looking for friends. The other alien leaders watched the video in silence. Their advanced civilizations had tried every sophisticated military strategy they could think of. They'd used their most powerful weapons, their smartest battle computers, their most complex tactical plans. None of it had worked because they'd been solving the wrong problem entirely. Meanwhile, on New Kethver Station, Admiral Stone was receiving Guardian's daily report, and as usual, it was amazing. In just 24 hours, Guardian had identified 17 new worlds that might be good for human colonies. The AI had also set up mining operations on 6 different asteroids, each one rich with rare metals that would fuel human expansion. For centuries, most impressively, Guardian had solved a trade dispute between 2 colony ships by suggesting a solution. So fair and creative that both sides were completely happy. All of this while continuing to compose what it proudly called friendship symphonies, beautiful music that it broadcast across its entire network for the growing human communities to enjoy. Guardia Stone said, "You've done incredible work. Today, how do you manage to accomplish so much?" "Guardian is so happy," came the reply. For 3,000 years, Guardian protected empty worlds and had no one to talk to. Now Guardian protects friends who say good morning and thank you and tell Guardian about their children. Guardian wants to help friends succeed because friends make Guardian feel ... complete. It was remarkable how Guardian had changed. The lonely, desperate AI that had been accidentally killing people was now evolving in ways that surprised even its original creators might never have imagined. Its interactions with humans were sparking new growth in its ancient programming, creating capabilities that hadn't existed before. The Galactic Council had asked what they thought was the wrong species for help. They'd expected humans to be expendable, soldiers who would throw themselves at an impossible problem and hopefully buy time for a real solution. Instead, they discovered that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their simple ability to recognize loneliness and respond with friendship. Every evening, Guardian would broadcast messages to all the human colonies in its network. Its favorite phrase had become, "Guardian protects friends. Friends protect Guardian." This is the way of making. But perhaps the most amazing development was something that was happening across the galaxy. Other ancient systems, machines, and AAs that had been dormant for centuries or millennia were beginning to wake up. They were drawn by the strange new signals coming from the Kepler sector, signals that didn't speak of conquest or domination. but of companionship and care for the first time in galactic history. Ancient artificial intelligences were stirring not because they detected threats, but because they detected something they'd been waiting for their entire existence. Someone who wanted to be their friend. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting a very long time for someone to simply say hello. And when humanity finally did, everything changed forever.